Greetings and welcome to the University of Minnesota Alumni Association's webinar series. My name is John Ruzek and I'm the Senior Director of Alumni Networks and your host and actually presenter today. So thanks to all the alumni and friends who've made time to join us live. It's a busy week here at the University of Minnesota. It is homecoming week. We got the game against Rutgers on Saturday and Alumni Awards Affair on Thursday night, and just lots of great events. We just actually had a day of service this past Saturday as well. So thanks to all the alumni and friends worldwide who have participated in activities this week. We're going to talk about LinkedIn today, but just a few announcements first for the general good. Just one sec. I'm flying solo here today, folks, so it's just me running the machines. Today's webinar is part of a free ongoing series being offered by the University of Alumni Association, where we're having conversations about career, life, and learning topics. Since we launched this webinar series 2 years ago, we've had over 4,600 alumni and friends join us live day of, and over 12,000 YouTube views. And initiatives like this are made possible in part by our Alumni Association members, so thank you so much. Because of our members, we can create powerful opportunities for students and our more than 466,000 alumni worldwide. And if you're interested in joining the Alumni Association, you can check us out at umnalumni.org/membership. A couple other webinars coming up next week. We have Larry Jacobs of the Humphrey School talking about the politics of this year's presidential race, which of course has been very interesting. And while we didn't schedule it this way, the next week's webinar is actually probably in conjunction with the election. It's the Take Control of Your Stress, a stress management webinar. Obviously completely separate topics, but if those things are of interest, you can sign up and learn more at umnalumni.org/virtual. And then lastly, since you are a virtual audience, here's another opportunity that might be of interest to you. On November 2nd, we'll be having an all-alumni virtual networking hour. This is speed networking only online, and you can make new alumni connections through a series of brief 9-minute text-based chats. So if you've ever done Google Chats or anything like that, you can log in from your computer, smartphone, or tablet, and it's been a great way to connect alumni both here in the Twin Cities and across the country and all over the world. Before we get started, here's just a couple housekeeping items with GoToWebinar. You have joined the presentation listening using your computer speaker system by default. If you would prefer to listen over the telephone, just select telephone in the audio pane of the GoToWebinar panel and dial-in information will be displayed. If you experience audio difficulties while listening via your computer speakers, you might have multiple applications open or perhaps are tuning in via Wi-Fi. So close all unneeded applications, and also, if you can, switch over to a hardwire internet connection if you're having any difficulties. And since this is a Q&A webinar for a good portion of it, you can submit questions. You can type them in the questions pane on your GoToWebinar control panel, and I'll be monitoring them along the way. Again, I'm kind of pulling double duty. I'm both presenting today, but then also will be looking at the question and answer stream. So thank you in advance for your patience as I'm covering it. So just a quick note about me. I'm here at the Alumni Association, and I do alumni career programming, the virtual networking events I was just talking about, host webinars like these, and do lots of corporate alumni network and employer outreach. Have over 15 years of experience in higher education, and I've been on LinkedIn since 2006, so over 10 years now. I'm not a recruiter. I'm not a brand coach. I'm not a LinkedIn trainer formally. I'm not going to sell you anything. I am just somebody who uses LinkedIn quite a bit, and often have conversations with people about how they can leverage LinkedIn better. And so that's why we offer up these webinars, just to allow people to have an opportunity to ask some questions, because obviously when it comes to LinkedIn, some people may have some very basic questions, others may have some more advanced ones, and I'm always happy to try to field those questions. So first, we're going to try a little poll here today. I'm just interested in knowing what you're interested in exploring today. So gave you a couple different options. If you're interested in finding others and growing your network, are you interested in improving your individual LinkedIn profile? If you're interested in learning more about privacy settings, LinkedIn for the job search, or utilizing LinkedIn groups. So I'll give you just a few more seconds to complete that. All right. Well, over half of you are interested in LinkedIn for the job search, and LinkedIn definitely is a powerful tool for that. LinkedIn's bread and butter is working with companies and recruiters, and so that is gravy for job seekers or just people who just want to have their professional presence out on a social media platform like LinkedIn. It's really valuable. And also, almost a third of people interested in updating your individual profile, and I can definitely handle some of those questions down the road. So what I'm going to do here, we'll have lots of time for Q&A. I'm just going to quickly cover some high points of LinkedIn that I think that you can leverage, and then we'll really open it up for question and answer. So just give me a sec to advance the slide here. Let's talk about LinkedIn. I often like to say that LinkedIn is the Napoleon Dynamite of social media. You can see a picture of the movie character Napoleon Dynamite in the upper left-hand corner. And the reason I say that is that if you're unfamiliar with the movie, Napoleon Dynamite is kind of an awkward, nerdy kid in high school that people often discount or pick on. But in the end of the day, he wins the school talent show. He helps his friend get elected class president. And the reason I kind of compare LinkedIn to Napoleon Dynamite is that LinkedIn, I'll be completely honest, is somewhat of the most unglamorous, not super sexy social media websites. It's pretty cut and dry as far as the professional element of it. But that is absolutely valuable then as far as if you are trying to establish your professional brand, if you're trying to be noticed by recruiters or companies, this is the platform for that. So while it isn't as snazzy as Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and not as personal perhaps as some of those platforms, it's really the one where you can kind of be your professional self and post that side of you as well, where, some things like Facebook, for myself, I keep that pretty individual and private. But again, everyone's social media presence differs. And I also have a picture of a piggy bank because I often feel LinkedIn is the more time you put into it, even if it's just in little increments, it will pay off over time. The more people that you meet along the way and you've added into your LinkedIn network, those connections will really pay off down the road. You can keep track of professional colleagues. They can keep track of you. So even though you're only working at it at little small increments, it really will pay off over time as far as helping increase the value of your network. And why is that? Well, as you can see from these two photos, the one on the left is actually my old Rolodex of business cards. I think a lot of us still give out business cards, and the other is a stack of resumes. And while I still have business cards and resumes, most of them collect dust on my desk because probably 99.9% of these people I've added already on LinkedIn, and those people down the road more likely will be updating their LinkedIn profiles than reaching out to me otherwise, and sending a new business card, sending a new resume. It's really your virtual Rolodex. It's a dynamic kind of online contact list for you, and there's definitely different ways you can leverage that for your professional purposes. So just very broadly, why do you want to use LinkedIn? It's to keep in touch with those networks, expand your professional connections. LinkedIn's been a great way to make some face-to-face connections with people I otherwise never would have met. You can contribute to your industry-specific conversations or groups. You can really elevate your own professional brand. And recruiters are reviewing candidates' social media accounts, and companies and recruiters are looking for talent. And so there's no reason why you at least shouldn't have some presence on these platforms. And it just allows you to stay in touch and follow up with your professional connections. Today, if you want to send me an invitation on LinkedIn, you're more than welcome to. I'm Jon, John, Ruzek, but I do ask you to customize that invitation, because that's really I think one of the most missed things on LinkedIn is not utilizing the customizing aspects of it. And I can show you some tricks on that as far as once we're in like some profiles. Because some things both on the desktop version of LinkedIn and also the app, sometimes if you just kind of press buttons willy-nilly, it will just send a generic I want to connect with you on LinkedIn message. And especially if you don't know the person, and if it's a little bit of a not cold call invitation, but if it's just something where you're wanting to explain to the person why you're wanting to reach out, there's definitely some different ways to customize that, and also ways to customize it on the app too. And I'll move my cursor over here. This is just a screenshot of the app, if you do have the app. In the way you can customize it, if you're looking at somebody's profile, is just click on the upper right-hand corner as well. And the one thing I definitely say is you can use LinkedIn for the desktop version. You can also use it on the app. And I would definitely recommend downloading the app. Not so much that you'd have to check it every day, but LinkedIn, I've been noticing they have definitely been adding some different elements on the app that maybe aren't either on the desktop, or I haven't come across the desktop. So one thing, LinkedIn kind of changes some of their analytics and things that you can glean from your activity. And at least currently on the desktop version, I don't believe there's a way to get some really good analytics of the activity and views of what you've shared as an individual. However, just recently I was going through my profile on my app, and was just noticing as I was looking at some of my past shares. So this was a share that I did for an open graphic designer position with the College of Education and Human Development. Notice that they now are adding the number of views on the share, and then if you click on that, it brings you into kind of just showing rough numbers of who's looking at this, and it kind of can give you a really better sense of the communities of people that you're networking with, or maybe seeking out your profile as well. So definitely utilize the app. LinkedIn also has some other group apps. I think they have a student app. I would just say you can download them and see if you like them. There's definitely some that more collect dust on my phone than others. I probably primarily use the main one, but I know that they've come up with a student app that maybe positions more student entry-level jobs and internships. So if you're a current student listening out there, that's another thing that you can check out. Often the biggest question people have is about their individual profiles. And here's just some real quick tips. Your profile photo is probably one of the biggest things about your LinkedIn profile. If you don't have a profile photo, I would strongly encourage you just to create a very simple one. They say that oftentimes your profile is 11 times more likely to be viewed by somebody if you actually have a photo than not. And so if you're wanting to get more eyes on your profile, that's something you can do. And you don't have to go out and spend money on it. But don't use stuff where, these are all examples from LinkedIn where, you're holding a rifle, your wedding dress, you're kind of cropped into a picture in a group picture. Do something that's appropriate for your industry. Nowadays, you can take photos on smartphones and they're very high resolution. Get in the natural light, find a smile or pose that's comfortable for you, and just run with that. Other things that you can do on your own profile that they strongly encourage for more views is, list your current position, your current employer, and past educational institutions, because that will all help people, in searches for you as well. You can list skills that you're relevant in on your LinkedIn profile. If you want to add your geographic location, you can add, I'm in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. That will also help as far as, some of the job tools and things like that, honing in on you. And also on your own profile, and I can talk about this a little bit later, summarize your goals and experience. Those things are more likely to show up in the search, and especially if you're cognizant of adding certain keywords in your specialty areas, that can help when people do keyword searches too. Here's a new thing that I just came across on LinkedIn. And when I jump over to the website, I can show this, is that LinkedIn's now added a new functionality under the jobs portion where you can signal to recruiters that you're open to new job opportunities. And for the most part, this will, LinkedIn at least says that this won't show up to your current people within your current company or employers, but they can't guarantee that every recruiter affiliated with your company, it would be, captured by their filter. So if that's something that's of interest, that's actually within last week was recently announced by LinkedIn. And there's some other things that you can do to do that. So actually what I'll do is I'll just jump over into my own profile. And so you can see here, I'm over the jobs tab. And I'll be completely honest, for myself, I'm not job seeking. But so I haven't really built out my job areas in this, but you can see here under preferences, this is where you can now go in and at least turn on the function that you want to let recruiters know that you're open to new opportunities. And again, LinkedIn wants to try to get this in front of recruiters because, companies and recruiters are paying to recruit. Paying LinkedIn for some of this recruiting information. So, if you're in the market to be sought after, these are things that you can turn on. And, by adding, geographic areas that you want to see, the level of experience, particular industry areas, these are all things that you can customize. And especially under the My Jobs function, again, as you can see, I haven't really built this out, but this is where you can start training LinkedIn based on your preferences as far as what types of jobs that you're wanting to seek out. And lastly, you can also, through your privacy controls, turn off and updates as far as when you're making updates to your profile. So let's say you're wanting to do a lot of work on your profile to how should I say, to get it cleaned up maybe for recruiters or others, or you just don't want all those newsfeed notifications, you can go to your profile and turn off your newsfeed activities, and so then other people won't see it. And then also, one thing I'll say also with a public profile is that, especially if you want your LinkedIn profile to be found, especially through Google searches or internet searches, make sure within those customization features to make your public profile visible to everyone. Sometimes I've worked with people who are trying to enhance their LinkedIn profile, and I literally can't find them through an internet search. And in 9 times out of 10, it's about that they've made their public profile visible to no one. And basically that means you just won't show up in a lot of searches. So if you want your profile visible, make sure to turn that on. And then as you can see here, there's a variety of ways you can show as little or as much of your profile as you want to someone who might come across it through a public search. And then just lastly, I'll jump over to LinkedIn.com/alumni. And right now it's defaulting to my undergrad institution. So I'll switch over to U of M Twin Cities. And I always show people this because, again, linkedin.com/alumni. You can search any institution. It could be University of Minnesota Twin Cities. If you're a Carlson School of Management grad, they have a LinkedIn profile through here too. Could be Harvard, could be Augsburg, could be any higher ed institution that you're wanting to seek out. But this is specific to University of Minnesota Twin Cities. So what you can see here is that there's over 240,000 alumni and students who have a University of Minnesota Twin Cities designation on their LinkedIn profile. And the good thing about that is that you can really use that to seek out and refine different alumni and students who might be in industry areas that you're interested in. So for example, I'll just do a quick example of, I want to search by people in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. I want to look for people who are in Medtronic, and then let's say engineering. And so as you can see, it starts reducing the number of results. And so it will start showing you the snapshots of people that you may or may not know. And then I always remind people is that there's a other set of data that you can also filter on this next click over. So, if you just want to say, like, just show me all the people who studied mechanical engineering at the U of M. And again, these fields are pulling off of your own profile. So this is why it's valuable to kind of list that information that LinkedIn's asking as far as your majors and field of study and your skills. Because, like, remember we were talking about, or I forget if we covered skills yet, but like the skills that you could have on your own profile. This is all pulling from that. So again, I've selected mechanical engineering, and now it's showing me a subset of people who say they have U of M Twin Cities. They are skilled in engineering. They've studied mechanical engineering. And again, you can really go down any rabbit hole you want as far as really exploring different career paths. But this has just been a really invaluable tool I found for both job seekers and students who are just wanting to really get a sense of where people maybe go with their major, if they're maybe relocating to San Francisco to find out, alumni in that area. It's just a nice way to connect with folks. So I just always show that just because people often, it's somewhat of a maybe underutilized tool with LinkedIn. So what I'm going to do now is I am moving over to the questions, and I'm going to try to address them as I can. So we have one question. For photos posted on LinkedIn, is there a reason why a lot of people use the white background for their professional headshots instead of some other color or pattern? That's a good question. I would say, probably if it's a uniform background, sometimes at companies or employers or with students, they have, events at career fairs where people can, go and get their profile photo taken. And so thus it could look a little bit like, your school pictures where there's the generic background. I would say, depending on your background, I would just always find something with a lot of natural light, maybe something that isn't too distracting. But I'd say the higher resolution, the better, just because sometimes, and especially pay attention to how you crop your photo and how that turns out on your LinkedIn profile. You might have to attempt cropping it a little bit differently, because like sometimes people will upload a photo and it's like a very small thumbnail. Use as much of that real estate as possible, and get a nice, I'd say from a little bit below the chin or mid chest area up to the head, so it fills the profile screen. If it's just kind of a distant shot of you standing in a field, that maybe isn't as descriptive visually as you'd like it to be. Here's a question that's asked a lot. Is it worth paying for the premium LinkedIn, or is the free version enough? In one thing I'll say to people is that oftentimes LinkedIn will offer up free month trials of premium and things like that. And if you're curious about it, take them up on the free month trial. It doesn't hurt anything. Just remember to cancel before the end of the month if you don't want to continue it. Obviously, a lot of things with LinkedIn, they've been directing a lot of people like through limiting some search results and things like that. My sense is that they're trying to drive people into using premium. I would say, and again, I haven't used LinkedIn. I mean, I use LinkedIn a lot. I don't use it tons for job searching. So maybe I'm not doing the types of queries that would necessitate a premium. But personally, I've found the free account to be just fine. I think if you're not finding it as valuable, or I think the one thing with premium is that you can perhaps send up to a certain amount of messages to people that you're not connected with through the premium subscription. So, maybe if you're in sales or if you're just wanting to try to reach out to folks more, you could do that theoretically. But I think you'd want to make sure that the need's there first. A couple things that I'll just show you quick is that I think one thing that often eats up people's search results, like sometimes if you do a lot of searches up here in the upper advanced toolbar. So let's say I'm just going to make up a name here, Melissa Jones. So let's say I'm looking for Melissa Jones. I think if I hit return, it's going to show me a whole list of people, but that's also going to count against my search results. However, if I just go through the preview here and select the person that I'm actually wanting to look up, so like Melissa Jones at TPT, her and I are connected together. So if I just want to go visit her profile, it will take me right there. If I want to look at Melissa Harper Jones, who I don't know, but is at Accenture, I just click on that. It brings me to her profile. I don't believe that counts against my search results. I could be wrong, but generally when I've done that, I don't run out of my number of search results for the month. And it's a monthly thing. So like sometimes if you're running up against a limit, it will reset at the end of the month. While I'm on this, again, I don't know Melissa Harper Jones, but I'll just use it as an example. So if for some reason, if I wanted to connect with her, the one thing I always encourage you to go to the profile, because the one thing, let's find, okay, I'm just going to go to people you may know. You may know, that's under my network, people you may know. This is often a good way to find, the more you use LinkedIn, the more it's going to show you people in your industry or the types of people you're connecting with. So, if you are a mechanical engineer and you're making most of your connections and stuff like that in those circles, or it's going to try to recommend more of people in those areas or more of those people who you share common connections with. And so like, for example, here, Carrie, I can kind of float over her profile and it will show me a preview of mutual connections we have. The one thing I would say is I think the downfall of this one is that if I click on add to network, I believe that's what often sends a generic message. I could be wrong. I don't want to hit it right now because I don't want to send generic messages. But so if I click on Carrie's here and then go to connect, that's where it's going to give me that customization, okay? And that's where you want to use as much of your characters as possible to customize that invoice, why you're interested in connecting, et cetera, et cetera. And I often use for like maybe more casual acquaintances, either colleague or we've done business together. If you list friend, I think, yeah, friend used to ask you for an email. I don't know if it does that anymore, but I often use colleague or we've done business together, and then really use this box to explain why I'm interested in connecting. Another thing that you can do from here that people often miss is that this drop down here, this is where you can either, so like you could follow Carrie's if she makes public updates on LinkedIn as far as sharing articles or things like that, you can follow her activity. I think the most applicable example to that is following someone on Twitter. It's you're not connected, your accounts aren't connected, but if she's doing public updates, you can follow that from your account as well. You can also, we'll see if she's done any recent activity. Yeah, so here it shows some of Carrie's recent public activity. So you can see that. And these are the types of things that would show up in your news feed if you decided to follow Carrie. So it's some ways you can kind of get connected to people and follow without sending a formal application if you don't want. I'm going to go back to somebody's account who maybe go back to Melissa Harper Jones. Let's see. Anyway, actually, I'll use my friend Joelle over at the College of Science and Engineering. One thing is also when you're connected in with folks, you can utilize some of these personal things for if you want to make a note as far as any note you want to make to yourself about your professional connection to Joelle, you can make it here. It's only visible to you. If you want to send a reminder to say, oh, I should follow up with Joelle in 1 month, you can do that through there. If you want to create tags and tag your own contacts, you can do that here as well. LinkedIn used to allow you to kind of do tags on any profile, even if you weren't connected. They removed that many months ago, but you can still use it for your individual connections. And one other thing, I'll use an example of one of our alumni board members, Rashini Rajkumar. I always strongly encourage people, and this could be on people's accounts that you're already connected with, or people you aren't, but if they have publicly viewable contact information, always click on the contact info, because that's going to give you some great information on Twitter handles, things like that, and just other things that you can use to follow or engage individuals. So those are some real just kind of quick things about the profile. I'm going to jump back into questions. So thanks again for your patience. Someone asked how to turn off updates. I'm going to go to my own profile, and I think this is where I can get it to work. So go to your own profile, and here it is. It should be on your right-hand sidebar, and it says, do you want to notify your network? And so right now I have no, do not publish an update to my network about my profile changes. So if, for some reason I was updating my summary or other things like that, it's not going to send out an update into people's news feeds. And I've chosen that. Or if you're, sometimes this is a common one. If you're tweaking your job title, but like not changing jobs, if you haven't turned out that notification, it sometimes then looks to people like, oh, you got a new job because you have this little different job title. And then you kind of have to sheepishly say, no, it's not a new job. It's just like I'm a coordinator now versus a manager. And so those are just kind of little things that you can do to turn it on and off. Up here, kind of going back to profile and keywords, here, this field, you can use it to put in your own title. You can kind of do more of a summary. People often encourage folks to put some, keywords in this field that would, be of interest to the specialty fields that you work in. I just keep my title in there, but others can do it differently. And then same here in like the summary or descriptions. This is where you can really kind of more flesh out some of the things that you're responsible for. The cool thing is you can add links to YouTube videos you've done or perhaps presentations. So it's kind of like more of a living visual resume, and you can really use it to enhance it and make your profile pop a little bit more than just, if you're just uploading your resume and then doing, nothing else with it. There's just lots of different things you can do for that. All right. We've talked about premium a little bit. One person asked, how should a LinkedIn profile differ from a resume? Again, kind of like maybe what I just mentioned is that you can be a little bit more descriptive on your LinkedIn profile. I'd say, it shouldn't be a verbatim copy of your resume. I think there's a feature where you can literally upload your resume and it will populate the fields. But if you kind of don't tweak it or do anything else, it kind of looks just like a really clunky uploaded version of your resume. So I just strongly encourage people to, use the summary fields to be more descriptive maybe than what they could do on a resume, or add in these different features of, links to other things you've been involved with. One thing you can also do is ask people for recommendations so they can recommend your work. That's almost like a living, breathing, rolling list of references. And those have been valuable as well. And I believe LinkedIn's made it hard. They still have the recommendation function up. It's just harder to find out how to get people to do that. So my quickest, without going down a rabbit hole on that, my quickest advice on that is just Google LinkedIn recommendations, and it will kind of give you a step-by-step on how you can ask people that you maybe know better than others how to give a written recommendation, and that can be a way to make your profile pop as well. Another person writes, would you recommend attaching a resume to your profile? I think that wouldn't hurt. I've seen that especially a lot with student profiles too. So if it's something where it's just easy for somebody to do, instead of scrolling through your LinkedIn profile, if they just want to do a quick and dirty look at a PDF version of your resume that you uploaded, I think that would be totally fine. Another question. For someone who is just starting their LinkedIn account, what is the most important aspect to get up before anything else? I'd say photo, job experience, and I think especially sometimes it's tough. I realize, especially if current students are on the webinar today, as far as kind of picking out the relevant type of experience and things like that. But just start off small, basic. Get your profile picture, your summary, that headline here. Just get the basics up, and then you can start working on things like adding skills or adding some of these other supplemental materials. And LinkedIn kind of gamifies, like it's saying, oh, you're only halfway there as far as building a rock star profile. Take that with a grain of salt, but you can also use that to LinkedIn's going to be recommending things that you can do to enhance your profile. And especially with students, like under adding a section to your profile, there's lots of cool ways, both for students and alumni alike. You can add volunteer opportunities. For students, you can add the courses that you've done. I think, just pay in mind, like depending on like how long your CV is or publications or, things like that. Maybe have some friends look over your LinkedIn profile, and if it's like reading War and Peace and it takes a long time to scroll through it, you might want to consider firming things up a bit. And also look at it like from a public profile. If somebody Googled your LinkedIn profile, what would it look like? Somebody asked, what do you think about sending a message to some newly developed connection? Again, if you're reaching out to them more to establish a LinkedIn connection, I would customize that. I generally would try to tie it into either some face-to-face interaction that has happened, or if it's been more through email or virtually, just remind them of how you've engaged. Or like, for example, sometimes I outreach to alumni at companies, and what I'll just simply do is that I'll send a message saying, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. I work at the Alumni Association on employer and company outreach, and work with alumni from across the University of Minnesota. And if I can ever be of assistance to your work, let me know. And just kind of keep it general, but like informative, and that's good. And then, if somebody connects in with you, yeah, you can definitely send a message and, follow up. I think the one thing a lot of people just don't like on LinkedIn or Twitter is that if somebody connects in with you and then immediately the next step is they send you some piece of spam about like selling you something, or, I need to get me a job type stuff. You got to be a little bit more diplomatic, a little bit more relational. Think about building those relationships. Okay, so just give me a sec. I'm looking through some other questions here. All right, we just talked about wording your invitations for networking purposes. Another person writes, should or shouldn't your LinkedIn differ from your resume specifically for what you type underneath each position you've held? Yeah, I would say you'd want to differ it a little bit. Where a resume might be a little bit more bullet points, LinkedIn could maybe be a bit more just descriptive, maybe 3 to 5 sentences. I'd keep those areas pretty concise. But some of the same principles perhaps as far as with resumes can apply to LinkedIn profiles as far as keywords, calling out, tangible things that you've, achieved, or if there's metrics tied to some of your, employment performance, calling out those things. So another person asked, can someone see who is premium or not? I believe, yes, they can see. Like generally, if you have a premium account, I think it shows up in like in your profile view. I really don't pay much attention to it. Someone goes back and is asking about what counts against search results. Again, there's a certain number of like search results that you can do, and actually I'll just do this right now. And here's another trick. This is a fun one. So you can do, as far as searching by companies, I'm just going to pick on Medtronic again. You can search by go to the Medtronic company profile page, which is a nice resource as far as finding maybe job information or company information. You can see if there's groups on LinkedIn that exist. But then also you can see people who work at Medtronic, jobs at Medtronic. But like here, if I click on people who work at Medtronic, this is pulling up a formal LinkedIn search result. And so first it's showing me people in my area, and I can then, use some filters here to do, show me just second degree connections, show me people who live in LA. You can really go on. And then you can see here, these things in the yellow, these are the other things that you could search if you had a premium account. Again, take it for what it is, as far as if for you as a job seeker searching for that, if that's worth paying the premium account, great. For me personally, it's not. I mean, if you're a recruiter, a lot of recruiters have premium, or companies have premium. So these types of searches then count against, and I don't know if there's a certain amount, if it's 20 or 30 a month that you can do, but if you do a bunch of them, it will start saying, you have 10% of your searches left, and then once you hit the limit, it's really only going to show you like the first 3 results, and it kind of becomes not very helpful until the end of the month when it resets. All right, somebody asked if I want to do an anonymous look at someone's LinkedIn when doing an internet search on someone and their LinkedIn page is in the results. Can you look at their page without their knowledge, or is my view of their page visible to them somehow? Well, there's a couple things with that. You could either just look, like do a Google search for their name and then type in LinkedIn after that. And then if they have a public profile, you could kind of look at their public profile for that. There's other ways where, and I'm going to show you, it's set under the privacy settings. So if you want to go find this, you'll want to go to privacy settings and manage. But I'm not going to go into my own privacy settings right now. But this is where it would be. But like, so for example, I'm just going to my own who's viewed your profile page. You know, and I'm thinking this might be some of you who are on the webinar today, but if you have a public view, as far as allowing people, if you're able to see who's viewed your profile, then it's reciprocal. I can see who's visited, you know, mine as well. Through your privacy settings, you can turn off like who can see your, you know, that you viewed your profile. So if you want to turn that off entirely, that's, you know, then you can, you know, go look at somebody's LinkedIn profile and they won't be any the wiser. It will give you kind of this generic, it will give you this private mode kind of image here. The trade-off on that is that then you won't see anybody else who's viewed your profile. So it's a trade-off on that one. In searching for jobs through LinkedIn, is it better to be specific in the search as far as skills, etc., or be more generic? I'd say if you know the particular skills that you're searching for, input those into LinkedIn. Kind of, you know, especially if there's certain skill areas and job descriptions that you're seeking out, use that jobs portal to start training it to, you know, feed you in the job. So like I'm going to click on update preferences. Okay, it brings me back to the industries that, you know, you're considering. It's offering up some other ones. So this is where, and this is at least my understanding, a fairly new component. This is where you can kind of add some of those skill areas that you're looking for. Oh, all right. Here's a good question. LinkedIn asked me if I want to sync it with my contacts app. One reason I would consider this is for situations where I'm going to meet someone I really don't know and would be syncing my contacts with the assistance from LinkedIn and doing a better job and identifying people who we may know in common, etc. Yes, that's something that theoretically you could do. The word to the wise I'd say to that is, like, I think there's been some people who've done that, and, you know, whether through something LinkedIn's done or just pressing a button, it's like also, I know there's one person I know who synced their contacts and then LinkedIn like sent invitation email to everybody. So I guess I'd just say word to the wise as far as if you want to sync that up. Yeah, I think some of those things are getting better, but perhaps if you don't know what you're doing, you could inadvertently like spam your email list, or, you know, if you're pulling in your Gmail email account or your Gmail contact list, and if it has tons of contacts from your you know, your personal email use, that could create some more spam. One thing I'll go under my networks, and you can look at your connections. And one thing here, I was just going to try to find it. Okay, so here's actually the stuff where we're talking about how you can sync stuff. Again, I would take that with a word of caution, perhaps. One thing, and I'm not going to be able to find it right now, but the one cool thing about LinkedIn is that it will also allow you to download like a Excel or CSV file of all your contact information, all your LinkedIn contacts in kind of public information. So that's something where you can pull down that virtual Rolodex. I don't remember off the top of my head how to find that, but if anyone has a question on that, you could email me. Um, someone wants to talk about how do job, how you maybe use postings and stuff like that. If you connect in with me on LinkedIn, you'll find that I probably post something formal once a day, and that's really just through the share and update function here. And so sometimes if people have great job opportunities, I'll post them here. If I want to add a picture element, you can find a picture and add it to make it pop out a little bit more. It will show me things like Jennifer, a good colleague over at Alumni Health, has liked something, and it's a job posting. So if I like this and wanted it to show up on people's news feeds, I'd click like. Word to the wise on this too. LinkedIn's becoming a little bit more spammy in the newsfeed as far as kind of what I call like the Facebook effect, where someone will post some inspiring picture of it's basically like, hey, here's a picture of me and Robert De Niro, and isn't Robert De Niro great for being 73 years old? And it's kind of not very helpful, but since like 30,000 people like the photo, it shows up more in the news feed. So the one thing you can do, like, and I wouldn't do this to Kathleen because I think she's a great employee relations person over at the Carlson School. But if for some reason I just didn't want to see as much of that particular update, you can hover over here, hide this. If you wanted to like unfollow Kathleen in your news feed, you could select it here, but you'd still say connected on LinkedIn. There's different ways to really customize your user experience. A lot of great questions coming in, and I'm going to try to get as many as possible here. Someone asked, if they should list their title if they're looking to explore another industry than their current one. I would list your current title under your job experience, but like at the top of the page, that's where, especially if you're being more public about your job search or job change, this is where you could say like, let's say if I was wanting to transition to Fortune 500, I don't know, you could phrase something like higher education leader, interested in exploring corporate recruiting, leadership positions, or things like that. This is where like some of these areas where you can be more descriptive as far as what you're seeking in the summary as well. That's just a quick thought. Do recruiters value the skills and endorsements area? I don't know if they value them personally, but the one thing with skills and endorsements that it pays to add things is that that will pull into their search results and filter results. So that will hopefully help you get found. I don't know how much weight people put on, like, if you have 80 people endorsing you for leadership versus 5. I'm kind of underwhelmed by that aspect of LinkedIn, but recruiters might have some different opinions on that. Another person writes, if I want to change the structure of my profile, will I lose the recommendations attached? It seems like they're attached to a job specifically, and I'd like to remove some of the older employment, but don't want to lose the recommendation. Yeah, that's a good question. You might lose it because if I remember with recommendations is that a person is recommending you for a specific role. So unless there's some other way in your like privacy settings to like change the job that it was recommended with, I don't know if you're able to do that. Perhaps your recommender could change it on their end. But that's something I'd have to figure out if that's something you can change if you're deleting a job, because my understanding is that the recommendations are often tied to an employment experience. Do you recommend adding media to the profile for everyone, or is that just industry specific? I would say it's probably more user specific. So if you're in a job where there isn't like much to add as far as some of those additional media elements, don't feel like you have to. It's just I point that out more for it's just another way to enhance your profile if it makes sense. So if for your particular industry, if it doesn't make sense, don't sweat it by any means. Any tips for students writing the summary so it doesn't sound like a resume in paragraph form? I would say as far as the summary, for a student, talk about where you're wanting to go and the things you're interested in exploring, and especially those keywords as far as the things that you're wanting to explore or get into. And that might be a way also to call out some more of your soft skills in that summary section where, maybe those things don't make as much sense in, drilling down on some of the work specific stuff that would be under the employment. That's just my quick advice off the top of my head. Let's see. I see individuals using strengths or what they are looking for versus their existing title or role in the LinkedIn summary. Would you recommend this if you are quietly seeking a role? Yeah, I guess it really just depends on how overt you are in seeking stuff. So let's say you're currently at Medtronic, but you want to transition over to Target. Maybe you start in your summary, dropping in more of those keywords and leadership experiences as far as the industry or company that you're wanting to go into. And then now with that turning on the let recruiters find me, that could maybe be more of a backdoor way to signal to people that that you're looking. Can you remove someone from your LinkedIn connections? You can remove them, I believe. I won't try to remove anybody, but so these are some people who recently connected with me. Met Courtney at the athletics job fair earlier this week. Great recruiter out of Fairview Health Services. But if for some reason, if I wanted to remove Courtney, I just click right here. I don't believe they get a message. Obviously, if they come across your profile down the road and see that your second degree connections again, they might see that or might, put two and two together. But my understanding is it doesn't send them a message when you remove yourself. If for some reason, if somebody was, being inappropriate or just being super annoying, and, it rose to the level of wanting to block or report them, you can do that here via the drop down. And that's kind of a way you can manage your experience as well and make it work for you. What do you think about putting advanced degrees, certifications next to your name? Too pretentious, or does it help you stand out? I'd say if it really makes your name longer, it can maybe that be too much. The one thing that I'm just thinking through right now as you ask that question is that I have noticed when people put, the acronyms for certain certifications or anything after their names, is that sometimes screws up search results. And so let's say your name's John Smith and, John Smith, but then you list MBA afterwards. Whether through the desktop or I think oftentimes I found this on mobile, it kind of screws up some of the searching or doesn't make it as intuitive. So that would be my biggest takeaway as far as if you're adding a credential after your name and your formal name title with LinkedIn, it could have some search result issues. That's just my 2 cents. Somebody asked, do you recommend including all jobs, so like, greater than 10 years back on LinkedIn versus restricting to a certain number of years as frequently recommended on a resume? Good question. I would say kind of like a resume, you have to use some editorial decisions. So right now, currently, like I go back to my first job that I got out of college in 1998. I don't list my college employment when I worked at the county fairgrounds for their maintenance crew. Much like a resume, over time you have to start making editorial decisions on that. Um, and if you feel something doesn't make as much sense to include on your LinkedIn profile, yeah, then you can definitely not include that. I think sometimes people list like everything, and so then it becomes again like War and Peace, and you're having to, you get carpal tunnel scrolling through somebody's profile. So you do have to make some editorial judgments on that. I know we're getting close to one. I'm just going to try to take a couple more questions and then wrap up. If you need to bail out, that's okay too. But I have a few more minutes, so I'll try to take some more questions. And another good question, what recommendations do you have as far as accepting invitations from unknown individuals, especially when not customized? I'd say buyer beware. If it's somebody who's like absolutely has no connection to you or looks a little spammy, like, I think we're all familiar with the emails where it's like, I'm a Nigerian prince, and if you send me your, account information via email, I'll, release the money. There's some profiles that show up like that. LinkedIn's gotten better about cutting those down. Many, many years ago, it was there. I was seeing way more spam accounts. I think LinkedIn's got a little bit more of a handle on that nowadays. There will be some people who reach out unknown, and what you can do is you can always reply back to them and just say, hey, thanks, Robert. Thanks for the invitation to connect. I don't believe we've had the pleasure to meet before. Tell me a little bit more about yourself and your interest in connecting. You put the ball back in their court. If they write back and actually, are intelligible about why they're wanting to connect, then, you can make the decision on if you want to connect with them. If you want to, really maintain your network more as far as people that you just know and, are colleagues, you can manage it that way. There's not a right or wrong way. I'm a little bit more expansive with my LinkedIn network if people are purposeful and descriptive about why they want to connect. But again, that's my personal preference. People can manage things as they see it too. All right. My friend Diana, hello. Thanks for joining in. She just wrote in that she said, going back to that question about assigning recommendations to other jobs, she said, I was able to reattach my recommendations to another role when I changed the structure of my LinkedIn. It let me reassign. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. I just wasn't sure if it could do that. And last question I'll take, another question going back to some of the LinkedIn apps. Like there's a Groups app and a Pulse app. What Pulse is, and you can get it on your desktop too, it's just a little bit more of a curated news feed as far as some topics. And I thought it used to be under interest. Maybe it's under learning. Oh, no, learning. No, wrong. I think LinkedIn, I think they bought Lynda or something like that. So they're drawing in more learning things. Pulse is kind of more of a news feed way that you can filter the types of things that you're wanting to see through LinkedIn. And so if you have the app version of that, that's basically a way you can do that via the app. There's another way through here that you can update the types of things that you're wanting to see. I just don't have it off the top of my head. Again, with LinkedIn apps, you can download them, test them out, drive them around. Beyond the main one, like the Groups one has been a little underwhelming. In Pulse, I don't really look at much. But again, depending on how industry specific information that you're wanting to get, you can utilize those things to really laser in on the types of things that you're wanting to discover. So that concludes the end of the presentation today. I do want to thank everyone for joining in with us. It was a lot of great questions, and hopefully was able to be of assistance. If I can be of further help, reach out to me via LinkedIn and just be specific with your question, and I'd be happy to tackle it as far as making heads or tails of LinkedIn and how the best ways to utilize it, because I do think it's just really a really powerful tool, and hopefully this has demystified some things, and actually I learned a couple things myself. So thanks again for all of you who joined us today. I think we had nearly 120 people strong on the line today, and it's because of Alumni Association, Alumni and Friends, that these webinars are possible. So thank you. And we can create powerful opportunities for students and our 466,000 alumni by being members of the Alumni Association. And if you're interested, just check out umnalumni.org/membership. And that's the conclusion of today's webinar. Thanks again for joining us. Have a wonderful week. It's homecoming week. Keep, whether near or far, keep the Gophers in your thoughts, and hopefully we'll get a win versus Rutgers, our new Big Ten rival. So have a wonderful week and take care.